This podcast is brought to you by Bonus Room Productions and We Own This Town.
I am Jason T. Mears, Esquire.
And I'm Kelly Hoyle Bowling.
And we are San Dimas Today. How's it going, Kelly?
Man, it's going really well.
That's
Couldn't be better.
Things are phenomenal, as usual.
Of course.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's great to hear. I want to just throw this out. I want to get right into this point. Ballad of Buster Scruggs just dropped on Netflix. You and I are both huge Coen Brothers fans.
Yes.
And you pointed out something to me that blew my mind.
Well, you know, as you saw, it's 6 short films. And in the very last short film, the gentleman in the coonskin cap is none other than Chelsea Ross. Yes, he's still alive.
Yes!
Colonel Oates from Bogus Journey.
We got to try and talk to Chelsea Ross because, oh man, how cool would that be?
Yeah, that was just great to see him back in action. And I hadn't really kept up with him in a while, so.
Yeah, but he totally nailed that part. I mean, he just totally encompassed that, and it was hilarious.
He had the look of Harry Dean Stanton.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's maybe taken that mantle.
And you mean that in a good way?
In a great way.
Yes.
I love Harry Dean Stanton.
I mean, Harry Dean Stanton's phenomenal. And this is Harry Dean Stanton Today. So, just wanted to get that out there because it's always great to see a Bill and Ted alum making good out there and popping up in surprising places.
Right. So, you know, we're recording this and it's Thanksgiving times right now. Mm-hmm. And along with Thanksgiving and the holidays, sometimes there comes an airing of grievances.
Yes,
right?
There does. Yes, there does.
You know, and these movies that we love and we've loved most of our lives, are not without faults.
That's absolutely true. And if you're going to love something, you have to love it wholly, and you have to love it and accept its faults because it is what it is. And if you're truly going to love something, you have to accept those. But that does not mean that you cannot acknowledge them.
That's right. And so I think we've decided today to maybe acknowledge a couple of those.
Yeah, I think so. So minor, maybe not so minor, but problems that we do have with Bill and Ted in general. Not the characters necessarily, but maybe there is something. I'll start off. In both films, they use a homophobic slur. The same one, use it twice. It's uncomfortable to watch in 2018. I understand it was 30 years ago now, almost 30 years.
Right. And we can put some of that in context because we were in school close to that time and not too far removed from that age, and heard those slurs and worse all the time, right?
All the time.
But I think a case can be made that looking at it now through this 2018 lens, it's like was there something gratuitous with the use of it, maybe? To have the callback in the second movie from the first. So
in the first movie, Bill's afraid that Ted has just been killed by soldiers in medieval England. And he and Ted, they realize that Ted's not dead. Well, Ted knew he wasn't dead, but, they come back together and they hug, and then they use this homophobic slur, which kind of a bummer. It's a throwaway thing, and it's like, oh, we're dudes. So it like minor notes of gay panic. Then in the second film, Bill and Ted are bargaining for their lives, trying to convince the evil robot usses that they shouldn't kill them. And they're like, hey, we love you. And then the bad robot usses use the same homophobic slur before they throw them off the rock and kill them.
Right. And I know we were trying to discuss earlier whether or not that was progress from the first to the second movie.
Because you had the
evil robots were using it this time.
Right.
I don't know if there was that much thought that went into it.
But it does appear to at least be a step in the right direction. Unfortunate to still have that used in the films. Not that I'm faulting the filmmakers for including it back then. These are still films that are centered on pure joy. It's just now, in today's day and age, it's a little bit jarring.
You make that movie today, that joke's not in there.
No, you would hope not. You would hope not. Otherwise, it's Wild Hogs with John Travolta and William H. Macy. The ultimate gay panic movie.
Wow.
Okay. Another grievance that you and I have talked about, and we've actually talked about on this podcast, is the whitewashing of heaven.
Everything's white. Most people are white.
Very, very few people of color. I mean, you do have
the nod to Taj Mahal.
Yeah, St. Peter. but it's shocking. It's kind of shocking watching that now and saying, oh, wow, when you talk about diversity and inclusion in film, you would think at least they could get a few extras in there to walk behind, a few more extras than they did. It's a minor point, but it's still something that should be addressed.
One of those things I would think that maybe gets made a little differently today.
Sure, and these gripes really... I mean, we're addressing them with Bill and Ted for the airing of grievances, but I think almost all of these could be applied to any film made during those years.
Oh, definitely.
It's like a constant problem, and I'd like to think it's getting better. It's maybe not getting better as fast as it could, but I think there's a lot of good stuff happening, and things appear to be getting better. But, we'll see.
Yeah, I feel like there's more films I've seen that I can say have gotten better. Mm-hmm. But, even some of the same criticisms could be made for earlier Apatow stuff.
Sure. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Another grievance that we can air with these movies is the treatment of women in the films, especially the lack of substantive roles for women in the Bill and Ted movies. Mm-hmm. You have Missy, who's probably the most fleshed-out character.
Right.
And then Pam Grier's character from Bogus Journey. I can't believe I'm blanking on her name, but...
Right. The Battle of the Bands promoter.
Right, who actually turns out to be Rufus in the end.
Yep.
Spoiler alert. You have very, very few women who actually have any speaking parts in these movies. The princesses in both films are almost entirely regulated to, reaction dialogue or very, very, little to say.
Not to mention two totally different sets of actresses.
Yeah, which is... all four actresses did fine jobs. I'm a little bit biased toward the first film.
Yep.
And Diane Franklin, who played one of the princesses, did a phenomenal job. She did most of the heavy lifting for the dialogue of the princesses in the first film.
Right.
And we were preparing for our interview with Diane Franklin, which we're about to bring up. And I rewatched the movie, and I was surprised because looking back, there were scenes of decent dialogue that she had that I had just completely forgotten.
Yep. We find out there was a whole prom scene that got removed.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, this could be a good moment to just maybe pay a little bit of tribute to Missy.
Yeah.
The only actress to maybe cross over to both movies?
Yeah, I think so. I think you're absolutely right. She did a fine job. She took what could have been a one-note character and really embodied it with some real humanity there.
Yeah, and I loved the way they went with their storyline in the second movie. The character had switched from being married to Bill's dad to being married to Ted's dad
to eventually being married to Dinos.
Yeah.
But, she even takes on the role of the protector in the second film. Like, she's trying to protect the princesses from the good or from the evil robot bosses.
Yeah, which hey, a little bit of depth there that was nice.
Yeah.
And then the whole Ouija board seance scene.
Right, which...
or maybe there wasn't a Ouija board. They were just reading from the Necronomicon or something. I don't know.
Yeah, they're setting over a book made of human flesh, doing dark incantations. No, so those are my major grievances. I can't think of... only other grievance I can think of, which Michael, our producer, mentioned, is maybe they tried to oversaturate the market a little bit too much with Bill and Ted early on. The cartoon series... Yeah. Not that great. We'll talk about at least one of those episodes in a later episode. We've got that queued up for us to discuss.
Right, and then the live action series, which I've pretty much blocked out of my brain entirely.
Yeah, I tried watching maybe an episode, and then as soon as I turned it on, it wasn't Alex or Keanu, and I was like,
awful.
No, this is not going to last. Even my young eyes knew when something like that wasn't going to last on television.
Do you feel like there was anything lost between the fact that the first and the second movie were kind of done by two different sets of folks outside of, the writers and the composer and the two main actors?
I'll tell you what's a little bit jarring to me. And what's jarring to me is the future scenes, how the future scenes look. Now, Bill and Ted University looks really cool. The costumes are really bizarre, like those big Nerf costumes that everybody's walking around.
Yeah. It reminds me a lot of Back to the Future 2.
Yeah, it does. Mm-hmm. And it just doesn't jive with the vision of the future that we're given in the first film, which I really, really, really liked how the future looked in the first film. Mm-hmm. So Also, minor detail, like the antenna on the booth changed. So they had that, like, white hub come up as opposed to the antenna. Now, that could maybe be explained away by, the Great Ones having trouble with the antenna on their first adventure, and so they went back and made it more user-friendly. Or it could be something as simple as, like, we need to have something for Rufus's guitar to anchor on with. And so it was
to try to make that believable at all.
Right. And then adding in the 3D glasses for the second movie, it was a cool visual. Whenever the time travel booth comes up, everybody puts their glasses on and you see the blue and red, like the 3D looking thing. Neat visual, but it doesn't make any sense in context of the universe.
Yeah.
Am I griping too much? I mean, we're airing grievances.
Well, yeah, we're airing the grievances. And you know what? Our grievances are pretty dang minor.
They are. Yeah. So can we talk a little bit about our interview with Diane Franklin?
Oh, man. So I liked how you snuck her in there in our conversation. But you talk about actresses that, maybe weren't properly utilized in Bill and Ted, and no one comes to mind more than Diane Franklin. We all know her. Jason and I grew up with her as Monique from Better Off Dead.
Love that movie so much.
One of my early crushes. Mm-hmm. And she also starred even before that in her very first movie, which was Last American Virgin, which I thought was a very unique movie for its time. And we were discussing that just insane ending that is maybe one of the most realistic endings of any sort of teen sex comedy of its time, I think.
Or ever.
Right. And along with like Fast Times at Ridgemont High, the movie addresses abortion, I think, in a way that most films didn't.
Still don't.
Yeah.
This interview is really cool. It's really special. I can't believe we got her to agree to speak to us, but it was a little bit of a dream come true, considering, like one of my first crushes. Difficult interview because just hard to concentrate, and I mean that in a good way.
Your nerves were adorable at the beginning. I don't think they were as adorable as mine.
Well, nobody's nerves are as adorable as yours.
Oh, wow. Here come the compliments.
Yeah. You're a handsome man, Kelly Oil Bullock. So this interview is fantastic. We get into her career, how she got started, what she's doing now. It's all incredibly fascinating. She's written a couple books, which you have to check out on Amazon. We will link to those on our Facebook page so you guys can find them easily and check them out because so cool. But anyway, here's our interview with Diane Franklin.
Excellent!
Well, Diane, thank you so much for joining us. You got into modeling at a really young age. And just would love to hear how you got involved with that and how you made the transition to acting.
It's so funny. I actually was one of those little kids who, from the age of 4, wanted to be on TV. Okay. And, today maybe that would be similar to how kids want to have their own YouTube channel, like that feeling of like they want to be that person, But at the time when I was so young, I mean, literally 4 years old, like I wanted to be on TV. I told my parents, and my parents were these German immigrants. They talk like this. They were like, "What's happening with this? Why is she trying to get on the television?" And they didn't know anything about the entertainment business, but they listened to me at such a young age, and they actually they brought me to an agent when I was 4 years old. They listened to me. I mean,
wow.
I don't even know if that's even a thing where people do that, but. I went to an agent, and the agent said, "Your hair is too short and curly. Come back when it's longer." And I don't know. I mean, I know that was maybe not all of it, but I do know that that's what that's the piece of information I found out later. So I grew my hair out, and as we talk about like the 70s, it's that straight hair, that sort of Marsha Brady, blonde hair, blue eyes, the American look. Even there was sort of like the Christy McNichol, the shag, but there was no curly hair. That was just not happening. So I straightened my hair, and I just kept taking classes and singing and dancing, and I never changed my mind. I just never changed my mind. So then what happened was when we started, I asked my parents, again, and then when I was 10 years old, they said, "Okay, well, we'll go try again." So they went to another agent, and that sort of got that. I guess the first agent they went to, it was a thing where you pay somebody to get you auditions.
Oh, wow.
FYI, you don't do that. Like, that's the thing. Like, I can just tell everybody, don't ever pay anyone to get you auditions. It has to be someone who believes in you enough that they then send you out on auditions, and that's how they make money. So but you learn trials and tribulations. And so the first agent that I could, from word of mouth, from that bad experience, we found a modeling agent, and her name was Marge McDermott. And that was how I started at 10 years old with modeling, because I had no acting training. And at the time in the 80s, it was not considered, and I don't even know necessarily today how it's really seen as much, but I do know that certainly in the 80s, and you went back in Long Island, people were like, no, you don't study acting. You don't take acting classes at such a young age. It was considered, they wanted to keep the naturalness of kids. And so it wasn't a thing. Like, you did plays, but you didn't study acting. So anyway, regardless, and I really, it's interesting now because I'm actually, and I have to say this, I'm actually a very shy person, and people don't really necessarily know that because I tend to talk a lot, but that's only because I learned that over years. But as myself, I was very shy, and I still am shy, but it was interesting that at that age, I started with modeling because really it was something where I was still learning, and I wasn't comfortable with the gift of gab. And I had nobody in the business to tell me anything or show me anything. So I started with modeling, and I did that for 2 years, and then I wasn't growing. And so it was like, okay, I guess this career is ending. But during that time, when I did modeling, I was so fortunate because I was acting with Lori Loughlin, modeling with Lori Loughlin and Felice Schachter, who was in Zapped, and Lori was in Full House, the TV show.
Right, that's so cool.
Right, and Brooke Shields, we did modeling together, and she's like, amazing with Pretty Baby and Endless Love and Blue Lagoon, and
it's like all of my childhood crushes modeling together at the same time, right?
And Lizanne Falk, I don't know if you remember her. She was in Heathers. She played a blonde girl in Heathers, one of the friends.
Yes.
And she was stunning. All these girls who I did modeling with, we all started when we were like, they might have even started way earlier, but I was started when I was 10 with them. Crazy. And so I'll tell you this, we all started when we were all the same height. So that tells you a lot. So after that, that's when it got me in then to commercials because I wasn't growing. So I was like, okay, then I'll go more into acting. And to me, because I didn't have any connections, my parents never took me to the theater, although I did plays in school. But it was because they didn't know that world, And the only reason, again, that I wanted to be on TV was because that was my form of entertainment. We didn't go to the movies a lot. We were lower middle class. And so it was kind of like, that's what I grew up watching, Oh,
wow. So what were some of the commercials you did?
So then when I did commercials, okay, this is really fun. And that's also, I did a commercial with Lori Loughlin, and I did, I would go on auditions with Elizabeth Shue, and Ali Sheedy did a commercial with a friend of mine. And that was kind of a fun stage. So I did, oh my gosh, an Arby's commercial. I did a Coke commercial, the Coke is It campaign, where people were jumping, it was like it looked like Fame, and it's actually online. You can find it. Sort of looks like Fame, and we're all dancing, and I'm in that group. I did a commercial for Jell-O where I turned sweet. It was a Sweet 16 commercial, and that was hilarious because we shot until I think probably 3:00 in the morning, and we were all like, "Oh, we were so sick of Jell-O," and I would be like, Jell-O, and I had to be the one eating it because I was the Sweet 16, and then I just used the spit bag. It was like scary.
But that's acting right there, right? If you're sick of Jell-O and you got to keep eating it, that's acting.
Oh my gosh, green Jell-O. 3:00 in the morning, you're like, oh my gosh. Okay, let's just take another one. Let's take a close up on that. So, it was really funny. And then one of the biggest commercials for me was Trident Sugarless Mints, which was a huge commercial because that was the first commercial with curly hair. Last American Virgin was the first film, but that commercial after I again, it was one of those weird, it was a rainy day. I go out and I could not straighten my hair for the life of me. And I wound up getting this commercial, and all the people in that commercial were supposed to be Broadway dancers and Broadway singers. They were like established entertainers. And so here I am coming in, and the director gives me the product shot. He gives me the main shot. And so what happened is I'm in the background. I'm like, and he's like, excuse me, can you just let this girl through, please? Can you let Diane through? And I'm like, what is happening? Nice. And all these, incredibly talented people are looking at me like, what? Why is she coming up here? She's never done any, Broadway or anything. So it was a little, I was definitely uncomfortable. But I was lucky, and it was a big break. And after that commercial showed, like, people would recognize me on the street, which was very exciting coming from, Long Island, like walking in the streets of New York. And when people recognize you on the streets of New York, that's crazy, because that just doesn't happen.
Yeah, I can't fathom that. Cannot fathom that.
It's like, it just doesn't happen. You're back east, you're like, people are usually looking down, they're looking up. They don't look, make eye contact. Although over the years it's gotten a lot better. But back in the 80s, no. You just, you walked in your direction and you just didn't make eye contact. But so that was an amazing gift. And then I'm trying to think, oh gosh, there's so many. I did Pepsi. And then, when you do a commercial, you have to wait a certain amount of time, and you can't do, the competition at the same time.
Right,
so
right.
I had to wait enough. Then I did a Coke commercial, and, you wait some more time and you do a different thing. So that's really fun. And, and you know what else I did? I did a Clearasil commercial, although I never saw it, with Matthew Modine.
Oh, wow. I used a lot of that product in the 80s, for sure.
Right? Remember Clearasil? Yeah, so there were some funny experiences. So, in fact, okay, this is crazy. Reese's Peanut Butter Cup. That commercial, it's online, and it actually recently showed at JFK. At the airport.
Oh, at the airport? That's awesome.
Somebody said to me, they took a picture and they said, you're not going to believe who I just saw. And I'm like, a 70s commercial at the airport? Like, what is that? That can only happen in New York.
Oh, that's crazy. How did you make the transition from commercials into more acting roles? I mean, commercials are acting, right? But yeah, to film and eventually to television, correct?
Yeah. So what's interesting is that I did the commercials for a while, and then I got a real big, I did a play at the McCarter Theater, and Jo Beth Williams,
nice.
She played my mom. My sister in the play. It was a very small play, a Thornton Wilder play. And I started doing more acting roles, and I played the daughter in this Thornton Wilder play. And then I got a role in a soap opera. I was on As the World Turns for about 6 months as a recurring character. So I was getting more and more roles and feeling more comfortable with doing roles. But I still couldn't get a role as a lead. It was always either names or it was, and I couldn't play the best friend. Like, they would hire other people to play the best friend. I always would wind up going for the somewhat of a lead, but I didn't have a name. So I was really stuck, and I couldn't break out of that. And I was going to NYU. I was going to college, and I was majoring not in acting, but in biochemistry, which is pretty weird. But it's because I took all the money that I made acting, and I put it towards college. And I thought, if I'm going to college, I do not want to spend that money on something that I can learn outside of college, which means, like, I could take classes in acting, but you can't take, biochemistry classes outside. You got to go to college for something like that. And I was always interested in science. So it turned out that I had a chemistry exam at NYU, and I get this audition for this film called The Last American Virgin. And my manager said, you have the audition tomorrow. And I said, I am booking out. Do not call me. I have my chemistry exam. And she's like, well, if you change your mind, here's the address. And I'm like, I'm not changing my mind. I have this exam and I got to do it. And I'm thinking, the title, The Last American Virgin. I'm so sure that I'm going to miss my exam for this film, right? I go to the exam and I go to take it. And I look down at it and I realize I have a better chance of getting a lead in a film than I do passing this exam.
That's great.
And so I race uptown and I meet the producers. It was Menachem and Yoram Golan and Globus. And I guess Boaz had left already. He was on his plane back to Los Angeles. And they said to me, we're going to fly you out next week for a screen test. And, that's it. Like, just do it. It happened so fast.
Wow.
And the thing that was amazing about that experience was because it was the day of my chemistry exam, I didn't straighten my hair. So when I showed up to meet them, they saw me with this big, giant, curly haired head and just all my hair just totally curled out. And they thought it was pretty, which is something I honestly was not a given. Like, nobody really thought curly hair. They thought, that's okay. But it wasn't considered beautiful. And so had I showed up with straight hair, maybe they wouldn't have even had me come. But based on my look, I think they were like, okay, you're definitely coming out. So I went and I auditioned and we went into production immediately, right away.
Wow.
We started shooting like a week later or 2 weeks later. So, yeah. So I stayed in Los Angeles. I didn't even come back. And I dropped out of chemistry.
Wow.
I dropped out of that class. So, and actually I stopped my education I did Amityville. After I did Amityville, then I stopped my college education. But later on, I in my life, I picked it up, and I just graduated last year.
Oh, well, congratulations.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thank you.
So Last American Virgin, that's, that became a bit of a cult classic there over the years, and seems like just a huge first big break for you.
Yes. The amazing thing is, if you told me when that whole experience happened that we'd be talking about it today, I would have said, there's no way. Like, how is that even possible? Because first of all, when I got that audition, when people made films, like a lot of films, they tried to get made, but they never got finished. So the first thing was, when we did the film, we were thinking, will this even come out? I don't even know if it's going to come out. And, you can make a film, but it might not ever get distribution. So that was the first thing. And then the second thing was, when I read the script, I saw two different films. I saw this, sex teen comedy, sort of like gratuitous nudity, kind of like, crazy light film. And then there was this like wonderful deep story as well with my character. So when I read the script, I had sort of mixed feelings, but I thought, well, I don't know, I mean, what, and then it just hit me. I thought, you know what, I can make this film great. Like, on whatever I put into it on my side, I know that I can bring a lot of weight to it, and I hadn't seen Lemon Popsicle, which was a movie that was done in Israel before. So Last American Virgin is a remake of an Israeli film called Lemon Popsicle.
I never knew that.
I
never knew that.
You got to see it. The crazy part about it is, shot for shot, it's Last American Virgin. So you will see the same shots. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Was the same director?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the other thing is, this story, Last American Virgin, was based on the director's true life. So it was based on true life. Everything in that story happened to him.
Wow.
And yeah, I know, right? And it's I always look at the film as like sex education for guys. Like, if you're a guy, you got to see it.
Yes.
You have to.
Yep.
You have no choice. It's like, you're going to learn about sex and you're going to learn about love. And if they had sold this as a love story, no guy would have seen it. But they bring the guy in with the sex, and then people go, what is happening?
Yeah, Kelly and I were talking about that ending earlier today.
Yeah, it is one of the truer endings, I think.
Yeah, well, you can't forget it. Well, that's another part of why we're talking about it today, because I think and Boaz never, they were thinking of doing a remake of it again. Brett Ratner was thinking, he owns the rights to it, and he wanted to make a remake of it, and everyone's like, you can't change the ending. And he gets it, it's because that is the thing that rings true. The thing that was so stunning, I think, about, and again, we're talking about why you talk about a film like this, why you remember it, is because it's called The Last American Virgin. So you're thinking American is going to have a happy ending, and you don't anticipate this sort of European kind of that's life. Like, that's the way it is. It's sort of, there's no happy ending. Based on what you're saying to me, like, you know, the fact that it's still here today, it's not only just this, it's not only this film, which I would never have expected to be, because it's a sex comedy. Why would people, like, I mean, remember that, you know? And then on the other hand, it's like a 80s time capsule. The music, the costumes, the subject matter. And then that was the first film that had curly hair in it. That was the thing that my hair kickstarted all the curly hair in the 80s. That kickstarted the perms, the flash dance, the whole thing. It opened ethnicity for the 80s because it was I know because I'd been acting and modeling for years. I saw it happening. I experienced it. Even when I did Better Off Dead, I remember thinking, I know.
If you could have just trademarked those curls, you know?
Yeah, I'm like, curly hair. And what was so funny is after that Virgin experience, everybody, no one ever said straighten your hair. It was like I got lead after lead with the curly hair.
That's
and
great.
So anyway, I wrote a book about it, but on Amazon. But that's if you want to get it, it's called The Excellent Curls of the Last American French Exchange Babe of the 80s.
Awesome. I'll definitely check that out.
And we will link to that as well, for sure.
Good. Great. So it's good to know.
You mentioned Better Off Dead. Can we talk about Better Off Dead for a few minutes?
But of course.
We oh, so good.
Fantastique. Merci beaucoup. Oh my gosh. You know what I did? Well, you know, with the Dodgers in the playoffs, I actually tweeted, you know, you can do it, you know. All you need is a small taste of success and you find it suits you, you know.
Oh, that's awesome.
I was like, come on, Dodgers, right? So...
Well, one, we see on IMDb that you worked with Savage Steve Holland a few times. But
yeah.
How was the audition process for Better Off Dead? Was it just kind of... Can you talk about it for a few minutes?
Yes. I will tell you that if you want to know the specific details from Savage's point of view, the director, I have my first book, The Excellent Adventures of the Last American French Exchange Babe of the 80s. He wrote the forward and he talks about my audition and how I got the role.
Oh, awesome.
So it's so sweet. And I was like, I mean, it's just great when you hear from someone else's point of view of how you got the part, you know? I know for me, I had just come from a film called Second Time Lucky, and I had played a character who I played the character of Eve from Adam and Eve. Okay. So needless to say that role is very let's say just a little bawdy. Okay. And but one of the characters that I play as my Eve character, it's Eve through different time periods, was a French sort of a Florence Nightingale character, and that character is where I started my French accent. And when I went to see Savage for the audition and I saw that there was a French girl in it, I was like, oh, well, I'm going to audition for this character. And Savage was interested in me playing Beth originally. So when I come into the audition, I was like, yeah, you want to see me for Beth, and I'll read Beth, but you must see me for Monique. I mean, you must talk to me like this. I just started to talk to him with my French accent, and I just said, I am Monique. You must hire me as Monique. And, you know, I mean, I just kind of just went into my French accent, and I think he and the producer, Michael Jaffe, were so shocked. And because I just took that character over, you know? And I think, and I was crossing my fingers that night. I was, please, I really want this role. Oh my gosh, there's nothing gratuitous in this film. And what a great role model. So rarely as a young girl do you get to have a great role model. And I just love the character of Monique. I mean, she's just the coolest person, with the bass.
She's the coolest person. She's also the one person in the movie with her head on straight.
Exactly.
Right?
Getting to play the voice of reason.
Right. Fixing the cars and, and she knows how to, she's had a sense of strength, and I just love that character. And the only thing I was wondering is, why do we have to have a French girl to be that likable? Why can't it be American girl? But whatever. But I love the character. So I was just over the moon when I found out that I had gotten it. When they called me the next day and said that I got the part of Monique, I was so thrilled, and it felt so right,
Well, I can only imagine that film. I would hope it was as fun to shoot as it was to watch. It just looked like a great time.
It was killer. We would shoot and we'd have to do reshoots, and I would see the crew, like they would watch us, and then everybody would turn their heads away because they didn't want to laugh. So it's like, you're watching something funny, but everyone's trying to hold the laugh in. So I would see costume and the sound people, like everyone was turning their heads away when they would see us act. And it was, when that scene with Mrs. Smith squeezing my cheeks and saying Christmas, we must have shot that like 5 times. Everybody couldn't stop laughing. It was so funny. I was trying to, very hard not to laugh. We had a very fun time. And even the scene where Dan Schneider, passes the Jell-O to me, and then Curtis snorts it. And that wasn't planned. It was so funny. And I was trying to just keep, I think if you watch carefully, you'll probably see my jaw, shaking slightly. It was so killer. And it was just so wonderful. I loved working with all the actors, and I've stayed in contact with Amanda Wyss and E.G. Daly and Curtis Armstrong and Savage. And, we all back the film. We all think it's amazing.
It is amazing.
So,
Yeah. If to be honest, if Kelly and I weren't doing a podcast on the Bill and Ted universe, we might be doing one on Better Off Dead.
That's true.
Oh,
Such
I
fans.
love it.
Yeah.
Wait, I have to tell you something very fun. I'm actually going to be doing another book. This is my 3rd book, and it is going to be an homage to Better Off Dead.
Oh, nice.
And so what I do is, when I go to conventions, I bring my coat from Better Off Dead, which is that big oversized coat, and I let people wear it, and believe me, it fits everybody. I haven't had one person that's never fit, okay? And people take it, and then we take pictures with it. So what I'm doing is, if people have pictures wearing the coat, or if they go to conventions that I'm in for the next year, I'm going to probably put the book out in 2020 so that people still have time. But if they come to conventions that I'm in, then you can submit the picture, and I'll put it in my book.
Oh, that's awesome.
Very cool.
Yeah.
That is a great
it's
idea.
A labor of love. Isn't it great?
Yeah, that's it's just so wonderful.
That coat bonds everyone, which is why I love that idea. Is that men, women, whoever, you can't. You're a good person if you like that film. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't be a bad person, right?
Right. That is absolutely true.
It's like Tears for Fears. Everybody wants to rule the world. How can you not like that song?
Right.
Right. If you I'm sorry. That's just, if you don't, well, then you just don't get it. You're not,
No offense to any of our listeners who don't like that song, but you are monsters.
Right.
Yeah. You just don't get it. It's like, okay.
So, if you could talk about how you ended up auditioning and getting the role of Princess Joanna in Bill and Ted.
All right, this is lovely. You're going to love this because you got some very good timing on your question. When I auditioned for Bill and Ted's, I thought that I was coming in for the Joan of Arc role because she was French.
Ah, okay.
And so I thought, I'm going to play Joan of Arc. This is what is natural, and I would go in. And the funny part was, I didn't realize it upon later, but Joan of Arc never talks.
Right. Not a single line of dialogue.
Not one line. And I didn't realize that in the script. I think I don't know. I didn't see that. I saw Joan of Arc there a lot, but I didn't see that she wasn't talking. So when I was in the room, Steve Herrick was in the room, and not sure if the writers, if Ed Solomon and Chris were there, but I think they were. I don't know. Well, anyway, they asked me if I could do an English accent, what about the princess role? And I didn't remember the princesses because at the time I didn't see their names, or I think they were just referred to as the princesses. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay. And I talked like this, and I said, of course I can do an English accent, and that would be lovely. And talked, so as you in an audition, I was just improvising, with the words and talking like this, and they were like, oh, that's great. And so what wound up happening was I wound up going home, and then I found out, you're going to be one of the princesses. And I was shocked because I was like, wow, okay, I have no idea what this role is, essentially, but sure. I think the most interesting part of that was I was actually cast as Princess Elizabeth. But when they finished the film and they did credits, somebody mixed the names up, and I got the name of Princess Joanna.
Okay.
So come the second Bill and Ted's, what happened was Bill he is back with Elizabeth. And so the name's back again. And I remember telling Ed Solomon, Ed, did you know that I was originally Princess Joanna? And he said, no, Ted has always been with Elizabeth. I'm like, well, guess what? Check the credits because I was Princess Joanna.
Oh, that's great.
Isn't that great? So here's what happened. So during all this time, I've been signing autographs as Princess Joanna. But if they do a Bill and Ted's 3 and I'm in it, I may be back to being Princess Elizabeth. So
nice.
So
that'll be awesome. You'll have been both princesses.
You mean when you were in it? You mean when you were in it?
That's right. Wouldn't that be cool? I could say, in this film I'm Elizabeth, and this one I'm Joanna. So, yes. And I appreciate you saying that. When I like that. I would say there's very good chances of it. I know that the princesses are in Bill and Ted's 3, which is Face the Music. Mm-hmm. But I don't count anything until after it's happened. I have to say, there's been so many. As an actor, look at Bill and Ted's 2. We thought Kimberly Cates, who was Kimberly LaBelle, who now is Kimberly Cates. She changed her last name. We thought we were going to be in Bogus Adventure. There was no reason not to think that. And we thought, of course, we're obviously going to be in it. And it turned out that I think the director wanted to go a different way. And I guess the guys wanted us. But, I don't know. When it comes down to the end, I don't know why or whatever. My only thought was that perhaps they want to keep the guys freewheeling and they didn't want people to get to know the princesses that well. I don't know. So we will see. That's why I cannot say. Bill and Ted's 3, we will see. But I do know that people who are fans will be, it'll be a nice nod to see us in it. That would be really a nice nod, right?
Absolutely.
It'd be great.
Would you like to see us back again?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
That would be very lovely. We're lovely. Yeah. Thank you. You almost triumphed.
We will fully endorse you.
Yeah, for sure.
I love it. Lovely. Thank you.
So let me ask you this. So you were in the obviously you were in the medieval England shoots. So when you were filming, did you get flown over to Europe for those as well, and then do other stuff in Arizona? Or
so Bill and Ted's went like this. The first scene that Kim and I did was in Arizona, and that was shot because we actually ended the film with the prom. Bill and Ted take us to the prom. They did.
Wow.
Oh, it was so nice. They took us to the prom, and the set was like a real prom, and they had a band. I think we were probably supposed to be in the band at the time, but it was so wonderful. And Bill and Ted wore tuxedos, and I firmly believe that from this day from the day that we shot it, if that scene had gone into the actual film, guys would be cutting their trousers, their tuxes at the knee, because that's what they did.
Yeah, I'm already envisioning that for sure.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
I would have done it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Everybody, it was at the knee, and then they wore high tops, black, sneakers and socks.
Because it's prom.
Exactly. Of course, it's prom, right? Still going to wear your sneakers, but you're going to wear your tux. They looked so great. It was such a great look, and it's a disappointment that we didn't shoot that. But I think they wanted to make sure that Bill and Ted's came back to who they were, and so then they made us join the band. So that's how they kept us in it. But originally we shot that in Arizona. Then we came back, and then they said, okay, we're going to shoot the medieval castle scene in Europe. And we actually shot that in the medieval English castle. We shot in Rome. So they flew all of us to Rome, which was wonderful. And we shot all the scenes in the castle, which was totally lovely. It was beautiful beds and, wonderful dresses and, the guillotine and all that, right? And the kings.
A bunch of royal ugly dudes.
Right. It was magical. That was incredible, that the fact that they put it all together to make it look so realistic. And the guys were great. They were, who wouldn't love to, shoot with Bill and Ted? And Alex and Keanu, we went sightseeing with them, and had a great time. We weren't there very long, but we just had a blast. It was great.
Oh, that's so cool.
And then we came back, and then after we came back, they said, oh, well, we've decided we're going to reshoot the different ending. And that's when we shot in the Pacific Palisades at a house in a garage, the final scene you see with
Rufus
Carlin, George
yep.
Carlin. And I had not met him up until that point. And I guess he was in the film before, obviously. But so I was very fortunate to be able to work with him. Oh, my gosh. What a gentleman he is. Such a genteel guy, and so sweet and so calm. Shockingly so.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. His stage routine was very obscene and but sharp. He's such a sharp guy. And then to see, we work with him. He's the most gentle and hello, pleasure to meet you. Nice to meet you. He's, I would have to say, closer to his Rufus character in real life. He's just lovely.
Oh, that's so great. That's so great to hear. We recently talked with Terry Camilleri, who played Napoleon, and he had nothing but great things to say about George too.
Oh, and he was hysterical. That guy, Terry playing Napoleon. Oh my gosh, what a funny guy! I mean, it's a shame that we weren't around for their scenes, but it was because we never got a big group picture because the princesses weren't around at the same time. But I really hope if they do Bill and Ted's 3 and we're in it, I'm really gonna push for everybody to take a big picture together because it's it would be wonderful to have everybody together. So
100% agreed. And
anyway,
if you get that copy, that photo, please send us a copy because
I will.
So you've been writing. I see that you're still active in acting. Do you have anything besides the upcoming book that you'd like to plug or talk about? Or
I don't know if the audience knows, but when I was 20, I did a role in a movie called Amityville 2: The Possession.
Mm-hmm.
And I played the daughter in that film. And it's kind of risque. Sometimes some people think it's the best Amityville that there is. And it's very real. It's got like some realism in it. And it was based on the real murders that happened with the DeFeo family.
Mm-hmm.
So I played the daughter. And then just like a year and a half ago, a director named Daniel Ferran's writer-director. Again, I love writer-directors, by the way, because they know their material and they can direct it really well. So you writer-directors, love your stuff. I mean, I've done like 3 films. Better Off Dead was writer-director.
Mm-hmm.
Last American Virgin, writer-director. And then this, Amityville Murders, is writer-director. And it's just, your films just rock when you come from that place. I wound up, they called me, Daniel, and said, I want you to play the mother now. I want you to play Louise DeFeo. And I just burst into tears. I was so excited. I thought, how is this possible? I've always wanted to play a real person. And here, this was, I don't know what actress has ever done a movie where they played the daughter in one film and now they're playing the mother in the same story. Essentially.
Great.
Same story. So now you get to, and so now as an actress, I experienced 2 different points of view. I experienced the daughter's point of view of the family and the murder, because it's about a boy who murders his family. And now I'm experiencing the mother's point of view of the murders. The thing that was interesting is we just had a premiere at Screamfest, which is a film festival in Los Angeles.
Sure.
That is supposed to be like the horror. It's like the Sundance of horror.
The preeminent horror festival. Yeah, absolutely.
Festival.
Yep.
Exactly. And it opened the whole show, and the place, and we oversold the tickets. It was like over 400 seats and it was packed. It was like we had too many people, and the audience loved it, but they didn't love it as a, like if you watch it and you think it's a horror film, if you are looking for like eyes bugging out and like blood splattering, this isn't the film, because that's not true, right? It's not, this was based on a true story. So what it actually is a docudrama, meaning it's based on fact, but it is not, it's not technically a horror film, but yet at the same time, it is very scary.
Oh, that's great. I mean, we want to thank you, Diane, so much for doing our podcast.
Absolutely.
Oh.
This is phenomenal.
Thank you. Merci buckets. And thank you very much.
Yes.
I'm thrilled. I mean, again, these films that I do are boutique. there you have to be someone who really likes to watch films and to get to it, because it's not I think Bill and Ted's perhaps was the most commercial success, but even that, maybe not many people know about Bill and Ted's, because it was an 80s film.
Right.
So I think what's great about your podcast is you're bringing back nostalgia and really great happy memories for people. And that's what I try to do. I in my books, and I try to bring back, if you don't know the 80s and you want to know what it feels like and what it was like, that's why I wrote my book, so that people could experience the 80s again.
How cool was that, Kelly?
That was an amazing interview. I can't believe all the little tidbits we got. Just trying to imagine her and the other actress sightseeing in Italy with Keanu and Alex.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That would have. People often ask if you could travel back in history to one point in time. That would probably be me. I'd probably tag along sightseeing with them in Europe during the filming of the first Bill and Ted.
And will anyone ever see the prom scene? Is it ever possible?
If it hasn't been unearthed,
could there be a 30th edition that gives that to us?
I think in having conversations with some other people, I think we might be seeing some special editions come out.
Okay.
Mr. David Newman, in our pre-interview, had mentioned that he had done some interview stuff for an edition he thought was coming out. So
that's right.
I don't know if we're breaking any news here, but it does seem like that is a possibility. I would love to unearth that footage. That would be really cool. Something else to talk about this before we wrap up. Recently, there was a charity auction on eBay for a walk-on role on Bill and Ted 3, which I take as a very good sign that this thing is getting greenlit soon.
Yep.
Bill and Ted, the Face of Music, is inching closer and closer every day to becoming an actual reality, which I'm so excited about.
I can't wait. And unfortunately, funds were tight. We weren't able to make that bid to get on Bill and Ted 3.
Somehow, our producer and We Own This Town really failed to come through with that $16,000 we would have needed for that walk-on role. But, I still think Michael and We Own This Town do a pretty good job.
Yeah, I think so. We always want to thank Scott Bricklin and Scooby Tunes Music for the use of Walk Away.
Yeah. Begrudgingly, we thank Michael and We Own This Town, even though, where's our check for $16,000? But it's cool. Whatever.
We're moving into the holidays. We want you to be safe, but most of all, we want you to be excellent to each other.
And also party on, dudes.
Okay.
Can I get naked? Is that all right?
Yeah,
okay.
That will be in here,
all right.
so.
Okay. Nothing you haven't seen before.
Yeah, that's true. I've seen it all. On a shoulder.
Yes.